Andrew Leung. He's an international China strategist based in Hong Kong. Good to have you on the program with us. How do you see this high voter turnout in this weekend's elections? Are voters, what kind of message are voters sending to Beijing and to the larger international community?
Well, you've got to look back to at least a few weeks or if not months before even the idea of the national security law was made open, because the Democrat camp has openly published a 10-point plan to really seize control of the legislature and to veto the budget twice so as to force the resignation of the chief executive and therefore seize power in Hong Kong. So it was partly because of this plot that the national security law was hurriedly enacted in Beijing. Now, under the national security law, of course, protests and also votings, they're not outlawed. But then what is outlawed is a plot to really paralyze the government and also not threaten Beijing's sovereignty and national security. So I think it remains to be seen, whether the pro-democrat candidates eventually, how do they fare in the Legislative Council elections in September. Let's not forget the Hong Kong's elections at the moment under the election laws. There are two groups of candidates. One group of candidates are elected by popular vote, in other words, by the districts and so on and so forth, and the who are franchised, the legislators can vote. But there is another group called the functional constituencies. They are elected by choosing someone filled by the so-called professionals, the lawyers, the accountants, and so on and so forth. And traditionally, the pro-establishment camp holds sway. So it remains to be seen what would be the outcome of the September elections and how would Beijing deal with this.
Yeah, and I know the opposition camp is hoping to win a historic majority in the parliament, but do you think Beijing will allow that to happen, as under this new security law, dozens of candidates could potentially be barred?
Yeah, of course, it happened before. There were some pro-independence candidates and some even wanting to establish a pro-independence party. They were outlawed. But of course, now this time, the Democrat camp have come up with a plan B or even plan C. And there are other candidates who have got no track record at all. It's just a front. And then if there are sufficient people electing them, they could still be elected. So I think that it really remains to be seen how Beijing is going to deal with this. But also, at the end of the day, Beijing has already, under the national security law, had the power of interpretation of the law. If it feels that there is a deliberate ploy to unseat the government and also disrupt the administration, and that Beijing can always come in, but everything remains to be seen. But also, an indication is that the national security law is not as draconian as some was portraying it to be. Look at all the people still voting, and no one is arrested.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Andrew Leung in Hong Kong. Thank you.